Welcome to Empowerment Radio. It's another Wednesday, and we have a great show. A show that is about empowerment. And before I go to the topic of today's program, I want to answer a question that a lot of people ask me. What does empowerment actually mean? Because, sometimes it gets misunderstood. Does empowerment mean that I have the power over others? Or that I'm going to feel positive and confident at all time? Well, actually, empowerment is not necessarily that, because empowerment is first and foremost the ability to take responsibility for your thoughts, for your emotions, and your actions, no matter what the circumstances are. And then to make a daily choice to be the best version of yourself. And that doesn't necessarily mean that the best version is always brilliant, but you make at least that choice to do the best you can on that day with whatever tools, energy, and mindset you have available. Empowerment Radio and also the work I'm doing with the fear and anxiety solution and the empowerment solution is all about helping you to gain the awareness and the insights and the tools just to be able to go through life, through this journey of life with greater harmony, purpose, and fulfillment. And today's show is about one of those obstacles, one of those issues that so many people are dealing with. And I really think there should be some kind of an AA type of opportunity for people to meet. Because what I'm talking about is the fear of being alone. And how the fear of being alone sabotages our love and our life. Now, in this program, and I know this is a big topic and we could have, many shows on it, but in this program, I also want at the end of it, give you the opportunity to go deep inside through a guided meditation. So get the recliner ready, the dog in the yard, light the candles, and already start relaxing, because part of resolving this fear of being alone is also being able to go to a deeper, more subconscious level. Now, if you have any questions on this topic, you can either use the chat box on Transformation Talk Radio. You can call in at 888-418-6890, or you can also send an email at info@thefearandanxietysolution.com. Now, there are millions and more people every day that feel alone. 45% of Americans are single, and I'm sure that quite a few of those feel alone. And a survey actually showed that 1 in 3 adults in the US is afraid of being alone. And it makes sense, because as humans, we are social creatures. We do love to share our time and dreams and joys and successes with other people, and especially those that we care about. But even though the world population continues to increase dramatically, there is a trend for more and more people to struggle with loneliness. Even though we have probably more virtual friends than at any time in human history before, we are more connected. We can, with one button push, talk with anyone around the globe. We still feel isolated. We still are afraid of that feeling. Now, how do you know that you may be dealing with the fear of being alone? Maybe you think you're not, because you're in a relationship, so you have no worries. Well, let's look at some of those symptoms, some of those hallmarks that are really telling you that you have a fear, and you may even be in denial about it. So first of all, you can't spend time on your own. That's definitely
telling you something. Not just, when you're single, but even when you're in a relationship, you have a hard time being on your own. When your partner or spouse is leaving for a trip, you get nervous, you feel like you cannot sleep by yourself. Or maybe you feel like when you have to be by yourself, you need to distract yourself with having the TV on or calling someone, because that feeling of being with yourself, with your thoughts, that makes you sad, anxious, frustrated. You think you're pathetic. Everyone else has fun. What are you doing on your own? I remember when I came to Seattle in the mid 90s, I came from a relationship, a busy career, all of those things. And one of the biggest challenges for me was a loneliness, because I didn't know anyone. And certainly took me a while to make friends and create my own network. So at the beginning, I was hit with the fear of being alone, and it made me very uncomfortable when I was. And at the same time, it also really told me a lot about the work that I needed to do on myself. But one of the things that I felt so uncomfortable was that I felt everyone sees that I'm alone. It was almost like I was in the Truman Show and everyone was watching me going alone to a bar or going alone shopping, and what are they thinking? There was a self-consciousness with that feeling of being alone that made me even feel more insecure and also anxious. Now, if you have the fear of being alone, what you tend to do is to jump into relationships, sometimes from one to the next. You tell yourself, oh, I just fall easily in love, and you fall especially in love with those that give you a little bit of attention. Now, unfortunately, you also get often disappointed because you feel taken advantage of. What you saw as a potential mate and a real relationship, for the other person, it was just a hookup or a one-night stand. And once you are in a relationship, you are clinging onto it as if it's a life raft. In the relationship, you tend to maybe follow your partner and pursue the interests of that person and let them make the decisions and try to be their shadow. And you lose yourself a little bit because you just don't want to be by yourself, and you don't want to risk for this person to lose potentially interest in you. And even if you do notice that the relationship is maybe not that great, maybe it's not that fulfilling, you fight for it. You're willing to accept the unhappiness. You're willing to put up even with some ignorant, selfish, and maybe even abusive partner just because you don't want to be on your own. You rather trade happiness for a warm body. It's just like the people that hate their jobs but stay in it because of the benefits. And that fear of being alone doesn't make love and fulfillment and joy the agenda. It makes that avoidance of that unfamiliar or uncomfortable feeling of being on your own. That's the main reason to be in the relationship. You only leave those relationships when you have a backup plan. So you flirt while you're with somebody, you keep your options open, and when you feel like there's someone else to jump on, you'll do it. And then you again repeat the same pattern. And if you don't have that relationship pattern where you just really feel the need to not be single, you may feel the need to stay close to your family or your friends because you don't really believe that you can go through life on your own. You just don't feel equipped. You feel there may be situations that you have to deal with that you don't know how. And so it's better to have those that you can trust in and that care about you and have been there for you for all those years, to keep those people close. Now, does that sound familiar? Do you have a feeling that you may be, maybe covertly, but that you may be afraid of being alone? Now, where does this fear come from, and how can we overcome it? Well, a lot of people that have been dealing with that fear of being alone, and a lot of people I've been working with on that fear, have been growing up in maybe circumstances that didn't make them feel loved or accepted. Maybe there was a sense of neglect or rejection, maybe by one parent or both. Often these are also children that grew up with self absorbed and narcissistic parents that just were so involved in their own issues that they totally overlooked their children. Or maybe there were so many children around that there was just not enough time and love to go around. What happened is that that container of love and self-worth that we are supposed to get filled up during our childhood somehow remained empty. It's like looking for others to fill the void that we bring from our past with us. And so the fear of being alone is basically that lack of having some kind of an identity, a relationship with yourself, the sense of, I do have a foundation of trust in me. I have a foundation of, I know who I am. And especially when you were growing up in those circumstances I described, you may have compensated for the lack of attention or that feeling of not being important by pleasing and supporting others and being a caretaker. And so you need it, and you still need the acknowledgement from others. You still need others to tell you that you're okay. And so then you become dependent on that. It's like the drug, the oxygen. And if you don't have it, you automatically feel on withdrawal and you feel something essential is missing. So, what does this have to do with the subconscious mind? And how can we work with the subconscious mind to resolve it? We'll talk more about this after the break. Welcome back to Empowerment Radio. We are talking about the fear of being alone. And maybe you're listening while you are alone. And maybe what I just talked about, the symptoms of the fear of being alone, make you think. Maybe you're thinking about, well, is this relationship really what I want? Am I really settling because I'm afraid? Am I really feeling so unworthy of love and unworthy of just someone committing to me that I'm accepting the little scraps I'm getting from the person I'm with? Am I fooling myself because I don't believe that I can handle life on my own? Or am I really hating myself so much, like an annoying roommate or sibling, that I don't want to be around myself, that I don't want to face myself? What happens when you look in the mirror? Do you even look at yourself? Do you even see who you are? Do you immediately fall into judgment and just beat yourself up? Do you avoid your gaze? Or do you spend a minute and really looking into your eyes, trying to find something deep inside of you? Well, all of those things about the fear of being alone have to do with the subconscious mind. Now, many of you know the subconscious mind is a very important aspect of our mind, but you may not necessarily know that the subconscious mind also dictates on how we see ourselves. It's literally almost like our inner ID card. Whatever identity we have, it is anchored in the subconscious mind. And so, again, when you grow up in circumstances where there was a lack of feedback, a lack of just giving you nourishment or giving you a sense of positive approval or reinforcement, your subconscious mind takes that very personally, because it's at those early formative years where you develop a sense of self, where you develop the first relationship with yourself, which is largely dependent on the world outside of you. At those early stages, let's say from the time you're born until you're 10 or 12 years old, you need people to show you the world outside, to mirror to you who you are. That's when you develop that concept of this is me. And if you are shown that somehow you are just not really that important, maybe because the parents are busy or they're getting through a divorce, or again, there may be so many other siblings that there's just not a lot for you there. Anything that is an unstable and confusing environment makes you feel that that lack of love and attention and support must have something to do with you. It is confusing at the beginning, but eventually it tells you, well, I may just not be that lovable, or I may not really be that good enough. And that is often at the core of the fear of being alone, that not believing in your worthiness and in your lovability. It's almost like a limiting belief that has been developed early on. Now, in order to compensate for that, as an adult or as a young adult, you are again trying to figure out, is it really true? And so you're looking for relationships that may prove you the opposite, that may give you a sense of, well, see, I am lovable. I am actually someone who is worthy, and people want to be there for me or play with me and commit to me. But unfortunately, since you are having these imprints of not being worthy, and you have in your subconscious mind these people that have shown you that you don't really matter, it's almost like a dog looking for truffles. You will find the same characters again in your relationships, the aloof ones, the ones that are not able to commit or have a fear of intimacy, or the people that are rather narcissistic and self-absorbed. If that is what you grew up with, chances are you're going to look exactly for that again. Or people that may have an addiction problem, or maybe people that are not very reliable. All of that will repeat itself because your subconscious is looking for answers to the confusion of the past, answers by bringing into your life similar players as you grew up with. And of course, just like the players of your childhood didn't give you any answers, and you couldn't really understand why they didn't give you the love and attention you needed, the people in your adult life will exactly do the same, and you will be as confused. And that cycle of going through a relationship that once again didn't fulfill you, and once again proved to you that you're not worthy, and once again you feel it's your fault, and if you could just be different, and once again you're feeling that you as a person doesn't matter. Naturally, you don't want to be by yourself. Naturally, it feels like being on your own is like a death sentence. Just like as a child, you felt, I cannot be neglected or rejected because I cannot really take care of myself. And on a subconscious level, people that do have the fear of being alone don't believe that they can really take care of themselves. Not logically, not rationally. You can hold a job or pay your bills or anything like this. It's more that visceral feeling of being alone in the world, somewhere in the wilderness. And there is an instinct of, I need a tribe. I need someone to be there for me because I'm not strong enough. So you could say that the fear of being alone keeps you subconsciously still in your childhood. There is something that hasn't really outgrown those patterns. And so you may have never really had a chance to develop a relationship with yourself that was never mirrored to you when you grew up. Now, Tom writes, I'm not afraid of being alone. I just don't like myself. And that's exactly the point. People that are afraid of being alone don't really have a relationship with themselves. Being on their own feels like alone and desolate, feels unfulfilling. And I understand it, especially if you have a sense that you are not really your own friend. If you have a sense that who you are kind of sucks. And that is what I feel is the solution as much as it is a problem. How can you become your own friend? How can you become the person that you do actually want to spend time with? Someone that you don't feel annoyed by, someone you don't feel like its presence isn't enough, someone that you know, I am whole. I don't need anyone else to complete me. I am lovable. I am someone who is love. How can you develop that relationship? Well, in order to develop that, it is often necessary to also let go, release, repattern, reprogram the subconscious mind. And this is really what the work I'm doing is all about, helping you to go through the different layers of your subconscious mind that are still holding on to that fear, that these traumatic events, these significant events that really were making you feel that it's not okay who you are, the inner struggles with yourself that on the one hand don't want to believe that you're not good enough, but on the other hand, you do have that need and that fear to always get some kind of reinforcement from others. And of course, then this limiting identity that I just talked about, all of those things can be changed and all of those things can be altered by working consciously with the subconscious mind. So if you feel you need help, reach out, set up a free consultation, Skype or phone, by going to the fearandanxietysolution.com. That's the fearandanxietysolution.com. Being your own best friend. Well, in order to get there, which sounds nice, right? I mean, wow, how if I would wake up with my best friend every day and that best friend would be me? What's helpful is to know, of course, what is actually a good friend. So there are a few things that a good friend really is all about, and one of them is connection. Your best friend knows what you think and what you want to say before you even open your mouth. So there is a connection, there is an awareness there. And so you want to ask yourself, what is my connection with myself? How often do I actually pay attention to myself? How often do I not want to hear what I'm thinking or not want to be aware of my feelings? How often do I suppress my sensations? Like, I don't want to know that I'm hungry or tired or have to go to the bathroom because I'm too busy with work or too busy playing video games. How often are you not having this connection? And what if you would turn this around and just like the best friend, patiently, but also with curiosity and interest, listen and pay attention to what's going on inside of you, even if it's not really that pleasant at the beginning. Now, another hallmark of a friend is being honest. Honesty about the things that you're doing. A good friend, for example, is honest and doesn't let you go down the wrong track. A good friend warns you when you're in denial and maybe make a choice that potentially could hurt you. And even if you don't really like to hear it. So what would it be like for you to become your friend through honesty? And to be honest about, for example, the relationship you are in or the relationship you were in, rather than to sugarcoat it or be in that mindset, well, it was so good if I would have been just different and he was perfect, I was wrong. And every of your friends says the opposite. Everyone says he wasn't right, he was a player, he was just using you. So what if you would be as honest to yourself and not go down that self-judgment, that self-blame, but really see things with greater clarity, even if it means that Yes, I made a mistake. And yes, I don't really know who else to cling on to. Yes, I'm going to be on my own. But through this honesty, I also learn to have a closer and much more real relationship with the one person that I will certainly spend every moment of the rest of my life with. When we come back, we will talk more about how you can develop this kind of relationship with yourself so that you will never feel alone again.